Sarah had always been fascinated with photography. From an early age, when her parents would buy her disposable cameras, and she would quickly fill them. Every week, several would have been deposited into her local drugstore for development. It was her only passion, and they could not deprive her for it. Her room was wallpapered with snapshots of everything she found beautiful. It was no surprise to them she chose to make photography her main focus in college. Her parents stressed her for the importance of a balanced education, but Sarah had one goal in mind: becoming a photographer. Sarah's first year was a struggle. She had not been fully prepared for the course load she would endure. The courses that did not directly involve photography left her barely passing. She put forth enough effort to make her way through her first year. Summer break would be long, and her passion would be too strong for such a lengthy downtime. She was always open for any opportunity to learn more about her craft. She questioned all of her professors and possible summer programs or workshops to improve her skills. It had been frustrating for anyone who encountered her, but they obliged with any information they could provide. One of these particular tips led Sarah to a small studio downtown. It was a small two-story building among the several local businesses. The windows were adorned with tribal decoration that blocked off the view inside. The sign on the door indicated that they were open, so Sarah made her way inside. A bell jingled as she entered the door, and she immediately noticed the walls draped with patterns of intricate design. The patterns pulled her focus to them as she made her way to the desk positioned just inside the door. She laid the camera she had brought with her on her desk and scanned the top of it. It was covered with various trinkets of an array of cultures, and at the center sat a bowl that burned incense. A frail Native American woman stepped from the doorway just behind the desk. Her eyes were glassy and her hands trembled as she fumbled for the trinkets on the desk. The old woman's hands touched Sarah's camera, which caused her to pause. The woman stepped back, gasping, and beginning to ask who was there. Sarah had been startled by the noise in sight, stepping back and covering her mouth to silence her own deep breath. It was obvious that the woman was blind, and Sarah was unsure of how to respond. The two stood in silence for a moment before the woman spoke again. "I know you're here. Just tell me what you've came for," the old woman said. Sarah stammered. "I was told that you could help me with my photography." The fear on the woman's face transformed into a smile. So you like taking pictures?" Sarah started to nod, but slowly how silly the action was. Yes, ma'am. "No need for formalities, dear. If you come to learn about photographs, then follow me," the woman replied as her hand waved to the doorway she had emerged from. Sarah hesitantly made her way around the desk, taking hold of the camera as she went. The room beyond the doorway was dark, and the only light that came from the candles sat sporadically around the room. Sarah followed, but a sense of fear crept into her mind. She had never been in a place like this, and something about it felt wrong. The woman seemed harmless, though enough with the images plastered on the walls were less than inviting. Each one was a close-up captured image of a person's face. They appeared to be taken without notice, and there was a shocking of eyes of each subject. "Who are all those people?" Sarah said as her eyes scanned the room. The woman then turned her hands and waved about the room. "I take the pictures of the students I teach." "Why do they look surprised?" Sarah asked as she touched a picture of a young Hispanic girl. The woman laughed slightly. "Well, when you can't see, sometimes you don't take the best pictures. I miss being able to see my work." Sarah turned her to see the woman standing behind a very old camera. It was a type that still required a flash cube. The woman pointed to a chair that was placed in front of the backdrop cloth. Sarah turned to the seat, and her hands reaching out to touch the silky cloth. Her hands turned back to the pictures on the wall, and each person had been placed in front of this particular cloth. She turned her back towards the woman and noticed that the lady she was preparing for the camera for a shoot. Sarah stepped closer, but the woman asked her to take a seat. She quietly stepped back and sat upon the chair. "I was told you could teach me more about the art of photography," Sarah said, her voice trembling slightly. "Oh dear, I am," the woman said. "Did you know that some cultures believe that having your photograph taken can capture the soul?" Sarah nodded while looking to the exit. "Yeah, I have heard of that legend." The woman leaned around the camera with a smile. "How about auroras? You know, the color patterns of light that show you your essence?" "Yeah, I mean, I've never believed any of that, but I've heard of it," Sarah replied as she turned back to the woman. "Good," the woman said. "What if I told you that this camera is special and could capture the aurora?" The idea was silly and made Sarah laugh, but disarmed her a bit. Thinking that the woman must be Snell, her laughing face was flashed with light as the pictures was taken. Sarah's smile fell into a neutral position as soon as the room became dark again. She sat stoic on the chair as the woman stepped up from behind her camera. Her eyes were still lit with a bright green, and her graying hair had turned to its natural black hue. The wrinkles that had littered her face were now gone, as she had the vitality of someone of a much younger age. Her lips were bright and curled into a smile as she eased Sarah from the chair and toward another door. Sarah's body was forced down into a stairwell in the basement, and the woman shut the door behind her. She returned the camera and removed the image from her most recent capture. She placed it upon the wall, her fingers caressing the freshly printed photo. She admired it for a few moments before ringing the bell and drew her attention to the front of her shop. She exited the back room and approached the front desk. The woman's hands carefully lit the incense and had burnt out. Upon the desk, a young man approached it. She greeted him happily as she placed the camera upon the desk. "How may I help you?" Her voice was now sweet and smooth. "I was told you can help me with my photography," the young man said. "Of course, right this way." The woman waved him back towards the room, and the boy soon followed.
What's up, my pretties? It's the Lion Queen here. I want to appreciate you all for tuning into this video, and I do appreciate you guys supporting my video by giving this video likes and stuff. If you really enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like, comment and subscribe if you're new, ring the bell for notifications to when I upload so that way you guys will get updated for whenever I upload. If you want to follow me on Twitter or DeviantArt, feel free to leave a follow on those if you are interested in following me on those socials. If you want to support my backup channel, known as Ms. Dark Shigo, feel free to subscribe to it, as a link to that will also be in the About page section. And with that being said, and that being the case, thank you so much for watching, my pretties, and as always, stay pretty.